everybody. I'm Jim Sinicroby. Welcome to another edition of FLX Weekly. It's a Wine Wednesday edition of the show. So Katherine Chase is in studio from the Cayuga Lake Wine Trail. Going to talk about the 40th anniversary celebration of the Cayuga Lake Wine Trail, including CeleBrunch coming up next weekend. But first, today's show is brought to you by Generations Bank, offering a 4.5% APY 9 or 18th month CD. Get their best CD rate and choose a term that fits your financial needs. More details online at mygenbank.com. And Katherine, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again, as usual.
So congratulations on 40 years.
Yes.
I know you weren't there at the very beginning.
No, I wasn't
but you've
even
been
born
at the
yet.
helm for quite the past several years.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a great event scheduled on April 1st and 2nd?
April 1st and 2nd. So this is CeleBrunch. It's our 40th anniversary event. We did this back in 2018 when we were 35. And this is actually going back to the quote-unquote old way of events. In the past, when I brought food on, it was the itinerary, whereas this is the first time you just pick your starting winery and then you go as you please. So you can celebrate at all 10 wineries. Okay. A lot less rules. Yeah. Still be on your best behavior, but...
Well, it is a CeleBrunch.
It is a CeleBrunch. Brunch is getting really trendy, and a lot of people use it as a way to celebrate. Mm-hmm. Let's go to brunch and celebrate the birthday. So I'm like, let's do a CeleBrunch event.
So if someone wants to participate, what's the...
So tickets are $75 for a single ticket. That includes all 10 wineries, and you can go on Saturday and Sunday. We also have a designated driver ticket where you'll get everything but the wine. There are non-alcoholic beverages, and Cobblestone Coffee Roasters is actually sponsoring coffee. Oh, great. So you'll have different flavors of Cobblestone coffee throughout the wine trail, and then there's other. You're not just drinking coffee all day. There's other options as well. Sure. Well, so CayugaWineTrail.com is where you can buy tickets.
And before we get into the tasting and eating, because everything smells great, 40 years, when you look at everything that's happened in our region, throughout the entire Finger Lakes region in terms of wine and spirits and ciders and beer, and it's just unbelievable, the growth. It's hard to believe that all started 40 years ago.
It's not even very long if you think about it, because we're such a toddler, I guess. We're kind of in the toddler stage if you think of other regions. Right. And 40 years, it sounds like a lot. It might feel like a lot when you're 40, but it's just, we've only just begun, really. Yeah, and the talent that's in place now in terms of the owners and the winemakers and the viticulturists and everybody that's involved in the industry now, the exponential, improvement and growth over the next 40 years is probably going to be hard to even imagine right now. I wish we'd be here for the 80th anniversary to talk about
I'll be here.
The progression.
I'll be 92, so I'll probably... I'll be here. Well, I'm planning on it.
It'll be a long podcast because we'll be talking slow. But, it's just, 40 years, like I said, it seems like a lot, but it's not. But we've made such gains in those 40 years. Right. And like you said, what are the next 40 going to bring?
Only good things.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And also with climate change and everything that's going on, it's threatening some other iconic regions. We're in pretty good shape here in the Finger Lakes. Yeah. So
knock on wood.
Right.
Don't jinx it. So should we dive in? Because all of this smells really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I got my notes here on my phone. So today I brought 2 recipes, and that's just 2 out of the 10 that you would sample when you go on the event. The first one is from 680 Cellars. These are Rosemary Mini Scones with a whipped honey ricotta. So you can dip it, top it, however you choose. This is paired with their 2021 Pinot Noir Rosé. The wine is strawberry and cream notes. It's accentuated by savory herbal notes on the palate, which will pair really well with the rosemary, the fresh rosemary.
So 680 Cellars?
680
Cellars. Which is one of my favorites. I love it. I love the Pinot Noir at 680 Cellars. And, a newer brand. And they hit the ground running.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of to piggyback on what we're talking about, they're doing a lot of new experimental ways to ferment and create the wines. Just adds to the region. I couldn't tell you how many of these scones I've eaten this morning because I baked them this morning.
Yeah, they're still warm.
I warmed them up, yeah.
No, with some with the ricotta. So this is the exact recipe is what they would expect at 680 Cellars this week or next weekend.
And you'll get the recipe so you can make them when you get home because you're definitely going to want to. They're good with or without
can
this
taste the
ricotta.
rosemary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It goes great with wine. Of course, most anything goes well with rosé, wouldn't you say?
I would. 100% agree with that.
And you're right.
But it's a perfect pairing.
Definitely better with the honey ricotta. Mm-hmm. So how do you make the honey ricotta? Is it as simple as mixing honey and ricotta cheese together?
Yeah, it's exactly that simple. And if you like more honey, you can add more. It's just 8 ounces of ricotta and 2 tablespoons of honey. If you wanted it to be sweeter, you can add more honey. And I used a local honey, too, because I happen to have that.
Yes, very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not eat lunch today, so this is a real treat.
Yeah.
So these are also the type, as you go to winery to winery, you're not going to get filled up. You're going to just have a few bites at each place and pair it with the wine.
So it's certainly not enough for lunch at each stop, but, as you start traveling and adding into your stomach, you'll have more and more. But there's little different things to try, and it's just enough to be able to taste it, be able to have your pairing. And so with the event, you have this pairing. You'll have, if you're at 680 Cellars, you'll have the Pinot Noir Rosé and the scone, but then you have 3 additional wines to taste after your pairing as well.
I do. I gotta say, kudos to 680. I had Gruner Veltliner from there recently.
They have a sparkling Gruner too,
and it's just really well done.
It's really unique. Ian Barry, he's the winemaker. I'll have to try to get himself on sometime to talk about it, because they're just doing a lot of unique stuff. And Gruner isn't a very popular option. There's only a handful of wineries that have it, but they have, I think, 3 different types of Gruners. They have the sparkling, and then they have 2 that are just fermented and aged differently. So it's just a unique way to try the
That was a great start.
So the next one, following my 6th theme, is 6 Mile Creek Vineyards out in Ithaca. We have bacon sausage with maple cream sauce.
Oh, boy.
And we have 2 wines to pair with this. There's a sweet and a dry option, which a lot of the wineries will offer that during the event. So if you're just really adamant against dry, there is a sweet, or vice versa. So the first one is a dry Vignoles, which is a personal favorite of mine. It's got aromas and flavors of grapefruit, apricot, honey, and vanilla. It's fruit forward, but it's not overly dry. It's not overly sweet. It's 1% residual sugar.
And we're starting here?
Yeah, that one.
And again, what are we eating?
This is sausage bacon with maple cream sauce.
Oh man, you had me at sausage and bacon, and then you said
maple cream sauce. Yeah. It's as simple as ground pork, bacon, and some seasonings, and you just make them into a patty, and then skillet them up.
The wine's delicious.
That is really crisp.
Yeah,
I was looking forward to trying
really
this.
Good with all the pork that I'm about to put in my mouth.
Just listen to us moan while we eat.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
It is delectable.
It is. They probably taste good together. I was thinking as I was making this that this would make a really excellent breakfast sandwich with a biscuit. Then you use the cream sauce on the biscuit.
that would work. Now, CeleBrunch, that doesn't mean that the event's necessarily taking place during brunch hours only, right?
Right. It starts at 10 a.m. and goes to 5 p.m. So you can start early. You can start for brunch time. It's just more of the foods are brunch themed. When we're done with this, I'll list off what we have else for you on the recipe. But that paired really well. To the sweet side, 6 Mile Creek Vineyards, it's Pasa Tiempo. This has honey and flowers with a hint of lemon and lime, and it's 5% residual sugar.
How do you think they came up with the name Pasa Tiempo?
I should have asked, and I thought about it, but the owner's on vacation. Didn't want to bother him.
It just sounds like a name for somewhere in
I did Google
something.
it, and Pasa Tiempo here is 2 words, but in Spanish it's 1 word and it means hobby.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Literally, it means pass the time.
Yeah. So we drink wine as our hobby and pair it with food. It's not super sweet.
No,
yeah,
it's
it
not
is
super
good.
sweet. It's very light.
It's going to go really good with a maple.
Yes, let's eat more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is just amazing.
Yeah, I really like that cream sauce. I want to put on everything.
How did you make just the cream sauce?
So it's heavy whipping
Butter?
cream. No, it's
No
just
butter?
it's 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 5 tablespoons of maple syrup, and then 3 tablespoons of corn syrup, and then you just boil it for about 10 or 15 minutes. Let it simmer, and it turns into this. It would be lovely on waffles. It would be lovely on everything, but it pairs really well with the Pasa Tiempo as well. They always do.
It's just interesting how the dry or the sweet really goes well.
Yep.
You know, in different ways, but that's, to me, like, you know, I love wine, and I love tasting wine, but what I really love is when you get that perfect combination of putting some sort of snack or food in your mouth or a nice steak and then having that wine to go with it. It's like,
it's an experience.
Yeah.
It changes it. Even if you don't like that food or you don't like that wine, putting them together, you suddenly might, you know?
Yeah, and I like to, if I happen to have a bottle on hand of a certain type of wine that I'm going to drink, or maybe I just picked it up from the wine trail, and then I think about, okay, I'm gonna get a nice white fish for dinner to cook, you know, and then build like the dinner around the wine you're going to be drinking. It's a great Pasa Tiempo.
It's more than a Pasa Tiempo for you. You're right. So some of the other foods that you'll try on CeleBrunch, there's breakfast s'mores, a mixed berry parfait with blueberry waffle sticks, French toast casserole, cranberry mousse, quiche Lorraine.
What would be quiche Lorraine? Any idea?
It's a crusted quiche, and it can have all sorts of vegetables in it, or even meats. Lorraine, I Googled it, is actually a French territory. I think that's where it was created, so that's why it's called that. But I haven't seen the recipe to know what's inside of it just yet. There's also crock-pot meatball sliders with a red wine and chinky monkey sauce, tugboat berry trifle, and a garden vegetable frittata. So there's a wide array of breakfasty, brunchy foods to sample all throughout Saturday or Sunday, April 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, what a great way to spend a weekend. Hopefully the weather's good, sun shining, and it's like opening day for the wine trails for the spring season.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's and then there's more a big event coming up at the end of the month of April, right, or into May, the Wine and Herb.
Wine and
That's
Herb.
the big. It's 2 weekend event.
Yep, it's 2 weekends, and that's what we'll feature next time I'm on here. It's April 29th and 30th, and May 6th and 7th. Just like this one, where you choose your starting point winery, and then you can travel as you please over the course of one day or both. So you can take your time, or you can try to cram it in. Though I don't recommend that, because you'd really like to spend the time at the wineries. But it's your choice. And it's so big that we do it over 2 weekends. And then you get the potted herb or vegetable plant, too, at each stop. And that's one of our biggest events. The bacon event is starting to trump that as one of the larger events.
Right.
Because bacon.
Because of bacon.
Because bacon, but yeah.
But it is be a good reason to make a point to get out next weekend to celebrate 40 years with the Cayuga Lake Wine Trail.
Please.
America's oldest wine trail.
Yeah, America's first wine trail. We don't love the word old. No one likes to be called old.
America's first wine trail. Yeah, it's like I say, keep fingers crossed for good weather, because the weather we've had the past couple of days has just been such a relief.
Last week was wild, though.
Yeah,
we had everything in there. But yeah, it's optimistic, and spring is coming, and start seeing some buds in the vineyards soon. And
yeah, I mean, it's not like it's 50 degrees out, but it
Yeah.
feels like 75.
right. You know, I was thinking yesterday, 55 in March, you're not wearing a coat, but 55 in October, you have like a parka on.
Oh, I know.
Because you
You're
feel
like,
like you're so cold.
Yeah, that's exactly true.
It's crazy. It's wild.
Exactly true. But it is a sign of what's to come. And it's also, we're finally moving far enough past COVID where this really is going to be, you know, a great season on the wine trails. And some of the leftover, I guess, protocol, I don't know what you even call it, policy or protocol, but some of the things that happened in COVID are actually going to stick around and are good.
Yeah.
They're not
absolutely.
intrusive, just like certain policies.
It's just a change.
Based on, health and cleanliness and everything. So I'm really excited for this summer, not only on the wine trails, but everywhere. It just feels like we're finally.
It's more open and free, I guess, would be a good way to put it.
And I think there's an appreciation for everything that there is to offer here now that it's all open again. When it was kind of taken away from us a little bit, it was and also the way that tastings were done. I think there'll probably be a little bit of holdover from the COVID years. It's a good thing.
It's a new style. It's a new way to taste it. It kind of changed them to be a little bit more intimate with the tastings in some cases, where you can sit down and you can enjoy it instead of just bellying up at the bar. But every winery is different, and we're a really diverse wine trail where you can get all the experiences all along Route 89 and the surrounding roads. You can still belly up to the bar and get your pre-COVID tasting, or you can still sit down with whoever you came with and enjoy a 45-minute or so experience where you're just hanging out, sampling the wine, learning about the wines. It's diverse and a great experience to kind of tackle all of that.
I do think that there's a wider swath of average American who has an interest in what's behind wine, what goes into winemaking, and I'm one of those. If you went back, 5 or 10 years ago, I didn't mind having a glass of wine with dinner or drinking wine, but recently, partly because of your appearances on the show, I think, too. I've really started to, I'm far off from being an aficionado.
But you're on the
I
path.
have curiosity, and a willingness to experiment and the appreciation to certain things. And that's why, especially, I have a long list of favorites here in the Finger Lakes. I won't mention them all. So obviously plenty on the Cayuga Lake Wine Trail, Lake 680, which has really been something that's in the last year or so. I have it stocked at home. It's like a regular for me now. But also beyond in the other areas of the Finger Lakes and some of the iconic names and brands, and we just are really lucky. And I expect a pretty heavy tourist season too.
Yeah, I think so, because of that openness and that freedom that everyone feels. I think it'll, and hope it will be also tourist heavy, that the wineries will be busy.
Well, I got to tell a story. We went down, about 3-4 weeks ago now, to Virginia to take my daughter to look at some colleges, and we stayed in Charlottesville. And the first morning we were there, we went to look for a place for breakfast, and we found this eclectic diner, small place. Went in, and they had some stickers on one of the air ducts above the main dining counter. And right when you walked in, dead center, there was one for Seneca Falls.
Awesome.
Purple and gold stars, Seneca Falls, nod to the women's rights.
Cool.
And I said, the woman who was kind of behind the counter, I felt like she was the owner, and I said, Seneca Falls, huh? I said, and she's like, yeah, we were just up there in October. It was so much fun. It was great. Went visited some wineries, went to the Women's Hall of Fame, and really enjoyed it. I'm like, oh yeah, we're from Seneca Falls. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
Hopefully you'll come back. And then there was an older couple. I say older. They were probably in their 60s eating breakfast at the counter near where we were having this conversation, and she looks over and she says, we were just in Seneca Falls in January.
Interesting.
And I was like, really? She's like, oh yeah, we like to get around. We always wanted to go up and check out the Hall of Fame, and we also visited some wineries. And so first of all, small world.
Right.
Second of all, I don't think people that live here realize how many people do come. And it isn't just one thing that's going to bring them, which is a nice thing. So they both the people I talked to went to the women's rights historical locations here in Seneca Falls, but in addition, went and checked out some wineries.
Yeah.
And so it really is a combination of things that I think draw people to the region. And for some, it might not be the women's rights. It might be Watkins Glen, the gorge at Watkins Glen, or some camping options. there's just so much to do around here. But I thought that was pretty awesome. That just randomly we're down there in the middle of Virginia, and in the first place we stopped to eat breakfast, we talked to two people that had been to Seneca Falls in the last 4 or 5 months.
That's
and
awesome.
And also went to the some wineries. So
our area is truly a destination because we have so many different attractions and types of attractions and categories of attractions. There's wineries, there's racing, there's water, there's hiking, there's birds, there's a million other things. There's golf,
there's like you say, there's music. Like crazy amount of live music, whether they're big shows at St. Joe's Amphitheater or Canandaigua, down to like everyday performances, in local bars and in party houses. And Geneva Jazz Fest is this weekend, all from Thursday to Tuesday. So some world-class artists are in Geneva. It's just like it's a relentless amount of options for residents and visitors.
Absolutely.
So I figured we'd touch on that a little bit, seeing it's the 40th
anniversary. Absolutely. I think sometimes we scare the locals a little bit. They think there's so many people swarming in there. But there's still always room for the locals to come out.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. It's personally, I know that we have a high volume of tourism in the area, but I don't necessarily see it,
They're not in one spot.
Yeah, it's not like it's like, oh, these tourists, look at the traffic.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate that as much until I started working in tourism and to realize how much our little towns do rely on tourism, though, a lot.
Yeah, that's
and so it gave me a different appreciation as a local. But I know sometimes it is a little scary. If you're living nearby some wineries, you'll see a lot of cars, and you're like, I should stay away. But please do not stay away. Please come in.
Yeah. Well, I'd say let's toast to the Cayuga Wine Trail. Congratulations on 40 years.
Thank you.
CeleBrunch coming up next weekend.
Yep.
More information on the website.
CayugaWineTrail.com.
And then there's also, you can look at the other upcoming events throughout the season, try to get out there and enjoy it. But for Katherine Chase, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Hope you have a great weekend here in the Finger Lakes. And once again, congratulations, Cayuga Lake Wine Trail, 40 years, America's first wine trail.